A man named Gerald Lane is having a nice morning with his family. He loves his wife and 2 daughters very much. Gerald prepares breakfast for the family, while asking his youngest daughter, Connie, what to get her for her birthday. After breakfast, the family sets out to find the perfect gift for Connie. But they get stuck in a huge traffic jam. In the meantime, many military helicopters fly over the city, and the radio broadcasts about natural disasters around the world. None of this is alarming to Gerald just yet. But suddenly a policeman on a motorcycle whizzes past his car at breakneck speed. He breaks the side mirror of Gerry's car. Suddenly there is a massive explosion at the back of the street. The policeman orders Gerry to get into his car immediately. On the other side of the street, a huge truck comes straight at the cars, wrecking everything in its path. Within seconds, the city is engulfed in chaos and panic. Gerald decides to immediately drive his family away along the path cleared out by the truck. Soon the truck overturns in the middle of the road. Gerry's daughters freak out and hide behind the seats instead of buckling up. Gerald is distracted by calming them down and runs into an ambulance. So, the family gets into an accident, but no one rushes to save them. The crowd on the street clearly doesn't care for the Lanes. They get out of their wrecked car and run through the panicked crowd. Now it becomes clear who the people are afraid of. The streets are filled with crazed zombies. They break into cars and bite people. Gerald observes one bitten man. He squirms on the pavement for 12 seconds, then becomes a zombie and attacks his own family. Meanwhile, Gerald's family finds an abandoned camper on the road and climbs in. There is a real zombie apocalypse going on outside. One of the infected tries to climb into the RV, but Gerry's wife takes him out. The family drives on. The streets of the city are filled with military personnel who try unsuccessfully to contain the terrifying invasion. Gerald and his family get out of town to look for a safer place. Suddenly his oldest daughter Rachel has an asthma attack. Gerry stops the car and calms his daughter while his wife, named Karen, searches for an inhaler. But it was left in another bag. Now the girl urgently needs help. That's when Gerald gets a call from his close friend Gerry, who works for the United Nations. The Lane family, grabbing a shotgun from the van, head to the nearest mall to get food and an inhaler for Rachel. The supermarket is in total chaos. Karen scoops food off the shelves into a cart, and Gerry and his daughter run to the drugstore. The man hears the cry of his youngest daughter, Connie. Rachel is attacked by unidentified men who are trying to take her groceries. Gerry confronts the scoundrels with the shootout and saves his wife. Immediately a policeman runs into the supermarket. But he doesn't care about the shootings and the victims, the policeman just wants food. Now it's every man for himself out there. The family runs outside and realizes that their van has been stolen. They decide to run toward the high-rise buildings, so they don't have to stay in the dangerously crowded area. Gerry calls Gerry and asks him to pick them up from the roof of the high-rise as soon as possible. But he can only send a helicopter at dawn. No evacuation is possible at night. The family runs from the zombies up the stairs, but suddenly Connie goes missing somewhere. The girl is found at the door to a strange apartment. Thanks to Connie's screams, a family of Latin American survivors is now willing to shelter the Lanes. Their youngest son, named Tommy, speaks English, so there are no problems with understanding each other. The Lanes are given food and allowed to stay the night. Everyone listens to an announcement on the radio that urges people to stay indoors for a couple of weeks. Gerry wakes up at dawn and suggests that the kindly Hispanic family evacuate with them, because movement in this situation means living. But they are afraid to leave the house and refuse. Then the Lanes carefully prepare for a run to the roof and set off. Everything goes smoothly at first. But the zombies suddenly attack them on the stairs. The family quickly runs to the top, and Gerry covers them by taking out the infected. During one of the skirmishes, a zombie's red liquid gets into Gerry's mouth. The man fears that he is now infected as well. He quickly runs out onto the roof, stands on the edge, and counts down the 12 seconds so that he won't hurt his family after possible conversion. But Gerry remains human. Up on the roof, Karen uses signal lights to attract the rescue helicopter. Also joining the Lanes is the boy Tommy, as his family was attacked by zombies. While Karen and the children climb into the helicopter, Gerry tries to hold off the advancing zombies. A military officer covers his retreat, and the man jumps into the helicopter with his family at the last moment. The danger is over. But for how long? The helicopter takes the Lanes to a ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Many military and high-ranking people with their families are gathered there. The Lanes are given a separate cabin. Gerry, who wants something from Gerry, arrives. For starters, he tells them that the American government is no longer alive. Trouble has permeated every corner of the earth. People don't have the necessary resources to fight the virus, nor do they understand where it came from. A huge team of scientists is trying to make sense of what is happening. But the main hope for saving humanity rests with a young virologist from Harvard, Andrew Fastback.
He's our best bet at figuring out what this thing is.
He believes the virus can be studied and a vaccine developed against it. But in order to do that, they need to understand where it came from in the first place. The ship actively discusses the earliest letters and documents that mention zombies. All roads lead to a base in South Korea, with which there is currently no contact. Perhaps the virus originated there. It is decided to send the young virologist Andrew to South Korea, but he can't do it alone. Who will fly with him? Gerry is approached by a high-ranking military officer. Then he discovers that Lane himself used to work for the UN and was a top expert. The military insists that Gerry should keep Andrew company and help investigate the causes of the epidemic. Gerry finally understands why Gerry was so active in evacuating him and his family. After all, there is not much room on the ship, and only a select few can be allowed on. The military officer also hints that if Gerry refuses the mission, his family will be put ashore. Gerald explains to his wife the gravity of the situation. He will comply with the order, just so long as his family has shelter and a chance to be safe. Karen is shocked by this news. Gerald gives his wife a telephone for contacting him. He gives a touching goodbye to his family and promises to return as soon as possible. Mankind's salvation team includes Gerry, Andrew, and a bunch of military personnel. They all take a plane to South Korea. Along the way, Gerry instructs the young virologist on safety procedures. Andrew in turn shares his confidence in the success of the operation. He admires nature and even its scariest inventions. Nature desires humans to unravel its mysteries. What seems to be the cruelest aspect of the virus sometimes turns out to be a chink in its armor. Meanwhile, the rescue ship begins to disembark some of the passengers. Fortunately, this does not affect the Lanes. The family has no idea yet that such perks are not permanent for them. Lane's team flies up to the base in South Korea. The plane is forced to make an emergency landing due to darkness and the lack of air traffic controllers below. The team proceeds to exit the plane and is suddenly confronted by zombies. Because of this, some of the military pass away. And Andrew is unfortunate because he panics and accidentally hurts himself with his gun. The military helps Lane get to the base. They are outraged by the arrival of the American group, because it is better to keep a low profile at the base. It turns out that zombies are attracted to noise. And the only way to eliminate them is to shoot them in the head or burn them. Gerry explains that the whole world is plagued by the epidemic, and he's going to put an end to it. Next, Gerald asks about a letter mentioning zombies that was sent from the base a couple of days ago. The base commander shows him the scorched room. Here the guards tried to strap the first infected person to a bunk, but all were bitten, and the military had to deal with them. And the very first zombie on the base was a military doctor. Shortly before the infection, he had gone to a village to see a strange patient who had bitten him. Who the patient from the village was in contact with is unknown.
And the origin could have come from anywhere.
Gerald gets no specific answers to his questions. But he does learn that one of the soldiers was in the thick of the mess but was of no interest to the zombies. They avoided the guy. Also, the hero meets a former CIA employee who was caught selling arms to North Korea. He is slightly crazy and performed dental procedures on his person. The CIA man says that all North Korean citizens have had their teeth removed to prevent zombies from multiplying. The madman tells us that Israel also found a way to deal with the zombies. On the eve of the epidemic, they had built a huge wall around Jerusalem. The Israeli authorities knew something beforehand, so the CIA man advises Gerry to talk to the authorities there. Gerry is about to fly to Israel and calls Karen to inform her, but the connection is cut off. The hero, accompanied by the military, leaves the base so he can get to the plane. Everyone proceeds quietly, and the zombies stay dormant. But then Gerald gets a call back from Karen, and the noise of the phone causes the zombies to become active. A fierce fight between the people and the zombies ensues. Few manage to survive. Gerry and the pilot lock themselves in the cockpit and quickly take off. As they approach Israel, Gerald calls his wife back, but the conversation does not last long. He is interrupted by an exploding nuclear bomb. As he approaches Israel, Gerald manages to obtain permission to land and an invitation to meet with the authorities. The hero is received by a member of the Mossad, Jürgen Wormbrunn. He recounts that Israel intercepted a message from an Indian general, which spoke of battles with zombies. This was enough to put aside doubts and quickly build a wall around Jerusalem. But exactly where the first zombie appeared, Wormbrunn does not know. It could have happened anywhere in the world. Now it is important to save as many people as possible, so Israel takes in surviving refugees.
Every human being we save is one less zombie to fight.
The rescued refugees are cheering so loudly that their noise attracts zombies from behind the wall. With vile roars, they climb on top of each other and over the wall. The zombies jump straight down on the crowd. The military tries to contain the infected, but there are too many of them. The zombies are already biting people, and the city gets engulfed in chaos. The zombies are much stronger than humans and move faster. Eventually, Warm Brun orders a soldier named Segan to rescue Gerald and take him to his plane. The men try to find a safe place, but the zombies keep up and break through the defenses everywhere. Suddenly Gerry spots a man the zombies are not interested in again. They rush right past him. Segan and the other soldiers bravely defend Gerry, but soon she herself is bitten in the arm. Lane decides to save the girl and cuts off her damaged limb, hoping that the virus has not had time to spread throughout her body. She doesn't become a zombie, but she screams in pain. By now Gerry has taken responsibility for her and helps her get to the airport. His plane is gone, so the military stops a Belarusian passenger plane for him. There are a lot of people on board, and the crew doesn't know where to fly. The main thing now is to get in the air and escape the zombies. Finally, the plane leaves the devastated city. Gerry calms down and treats the wound of the brave Segan. She heroically endures everything. Suddenly, all of the recent events flash through his mind and the big picture emerges. The zombies don't seem to be hurting people who are already suffering from severe diseases. Gerry urgently contacts Thierry and asks him to find the nearest medical center that produces vaccines and to direct the plane there. Thierry talks to the pilots and orders them to fly to the research center in Cardiff. They dare not disobey. Meanwhile, a flight attendant accidentally opens the cargo hold and lets a zombie loose. Now the second cabin is in chaos, with many infected. Gerry tells the first-class passengers to remain silent and barricade the aisle. But the plan fails, and the zombies make their way into first class. It seems inevitable that everyone will become infected. So, Gerry decides to act. He snatches a grenade from Segan and throws it at the zombies. The cabin depressurizes and one zombie gets sucked into a turbine. Gerald and Segan manage to stay in their seats. However, due to the damage, the plane crashes in the woods. Gerry survives. However, he was seriously injured in the crash. The cockpit was smashed to pieces. There's only one other survivor besides Gerry. That's Segan. Fortunately, the plane went down near the Cardiff Medical Center. Segan helps the badly injured Gerry get there. Upon reaching the gate, the man loses consciousness. At this point, the ship learns that communication with the plane has been lost. No one but Thierry believes that Gerry has survived. This means that the Lane family will now be evicted from the ship.
Sir, I gave him my word we would look after his family. Yes, sir. I understand.
The Lanes take a helicopter ride into the unknown. Thierry looks after them and is unable to do anything to help his friend's family. Meanwhile, Gerald is recovering from surgery. The medics at the center do not trust him and ask a lot of questions. But the man only worries about his family and demands that the medics contact the ship immediately. Thierry picks up the phone and explains that Gerry is a UN representative and needs their help. He also is forced to admit that Lane's family has been sent to Nova Scotia to a refugee camp. Things can be a lot more dangerous there than on the ship. Gerald is furious about this and lashes out at everyone. The director of the medical center tells him that he, too, had a family, but they turned into zombies. Then Gerry decides to be more sensitive and explains why he came. Gerry asks the medical team to inject him with a dangerous but curable virus. The man believes that such camouflage makes a person invisible to zombies. Granted, this doesn't sound like a cure. But what if the patient with the terrible disease really manages to survive? The medical team admits that Gerry may be right. After all, zombies, like predators, may not be interested in a sick victim. If this is true, it is possible to infect the military with a conditionally safe virus so that they can fight zombies and not turn. Everyone is willing to conduct the experiment. But the problem is that the virus samples are in the other wing, and it's completely infested with zombies. There are now about 80 infected there. After studying the layout of the facility, Gerry, Segan, and the director of the medical center prepare to sneak in. They wrap their arms, grab a weapon, and head out into the ominous section, from which it is almost impossible to return. The group tries not to make any noise and slowly makes their way to the right lab. At the sight of the slumbering zombies, they freeze, and try to be as quiet as possible. The surviving medical staff keeps an eye on them via the security cameras. However, not making any noise at all is not possible. Soon the zombies notice the company and rush after them. The group has to split up to confuse the zombies. Gerry manages to eliminate a few and continues on his way to the lab. Sagan and the director of the center also get into a fight with the zombies. But they are forced to return to the safe wing as they are pursued by a huge mob of zombies. Gerry is now left alone. He finds the lab with the dangerous viruses and locks himself in it. The man picks up a whole box of viruses and plans to make his way back to the other survivors. After all, he doesn't even know what exactly he should inject himself so that he doesn't pass away. But a zombie suddenly appears at the lab door and is not intending to leave. Gerry is left with one way out. Even the medical staff doesn't know what's best to inject, or if the virus will work. Gerry also realizes as much. He asks the medical team to tell his family that he loves them and injects himself with a virus of his choosing at random. Gerry waits for some time, watching the infected behind the glass. Then he decisively opens the lab door. The zombie sniffs at him, clacking its teeth, but does not bite. Gerry's plan works. The man walks past the infected man. The entire crowd of zombies ignores Gerald and runs past him on their zombie business. Later, the man is inoculated against the previously injected virus and goes to his family. They are alive and well and waiting for him on the shores of Nova Scotia. Thanks to Gerry Lane's efforts, humanity gets a chance at salvation. Scientists develop vaccines against zombie bites. Each country finds its own way to fight the epidemic.